Good morning. How are you? So, we are in the final weeks of the year, and I thought I needed to come back on and complete what I had started. Today, I'm calling this video the Change Clinic, and this is where I cross stream to LinkedIn and YouTube. And I'm calling it the Change Clinic because this is the time of year when many of us are starting to look at what's happened throughout the year. How is 2026 going to work? And 2026 is going to be the year when I am more motivated. However, motivation isn't always what we need. And this is not going to be the time when I sit here and tell you that you need to push yourself harder, but we're going to look at why is it that sometimes we can feel stuck, but we don't move forward. We're going to look at the whys today. So I thought I'd call it the Change Clinic because this is where we look at it realistically, calmly, and with pressure. And I also have a YouTube video that's going to be coming out looking at how motivation doesn't always create change, how being motivated doesn't always create change. And I'm doing that based on my own reflections. I worked for over 25 years in environments where change wasn't optional. You had to change. And if you didn't change, or go along with what was being imposed, then the consequences were real. And that wasn't just for, the people working in those spaces. It was also for, mainly for, I would say, the clients, the service users. And in those settings, I worked in the criminal justice system for about 25 years. In those settings, motivation was spoken about, but you didn't approach the topic with how do we motivate this person, although it was spoken about. That was not the real um, foundation of what we looked at. It was what risk are they responding to? And what would make change look safe for this person? And sometimes it wasn't always what the actual person needed to get them on the straight and narrow, but it was what would protect those around them, for example, if they were victims. And that's a lens that I really want to bring into this space, because many times when people are stuck, it isn't because they lack motivation, it's because you have to look at the risks that are around them. So many people, when I'm speaking, especially now that I'm out of that space where I used to work and working with people full time, I'm working with professionals who are coming to me and saying that I feel stuck, I want to move forward, I know that there's something else that I want to do, but I'm not quite sure what it is. What I've realized is what they're actually managing is not their motivation, but it's risk. Because what sits behind the I feel stuck and I want to move forward and I can't is income, is reputation, is their identity, is their stability. You've got bills to pay. It's responsibility. You've got family members, maybe children, and an extended family that might be relying on you. So hearing, I want to leave, I want to move up, or I want to move out and I can't, or I know that I need to change, but I just keep going round in circles and it's not happening for me. What they are saying and what I'm hearing is the cost of me getting this wrong is too high. And so that means that what we're dealing with, and as much as I do a lot of work on mindset, it isn't always a mindset problem. It's your nervous system trying to keep you safe. So, and that's where a lot of the advice on motivation goes wrong, because you can come onto so many videos on YouTube and wherever where it's just saying, just do it, you have to believe it, and you just have to move through. But when you apply pressure, when your nervous system, and your nervous system does a great job, our nervous system does a great job. It keeps us safe, sometimes a little bit too safe, because it can stop us from moving forward if it perceives a risk. When the nervous system sees something as a risk, it doesn't say, "Oh, that's a great opportunity for growth or for change." Our nervous system says, no, hold on a minute, that doesn't look safe." And so if you apply pressure in those spaces where your nervous system is telling you this is not safe, it doesn't help you to move forward. What you get is overthinking. over explaining, over functioning, over committing, or you just totally shut down. And so telling yourself that I need to be braver, I need more motivation, I need to push through can sometimes make it worse because it creates more pressure. And we know that pressure creates stress, stress can lead to burnout. And so, and what that does, as we know, is it narrows our thinking and we don't get clear on what we need to do. So I want you to think for yourself. Just ask yourself, think for yourself. Yes, think for yourself. I want you to think to yourself. You don't need to put this in the comments, but if you want to share it in the DMs, then that would be great. But just ask yourself, what are you afraid would happen if you moved too quickly right now? So if you're sitting there and you're thinking, I really want to move, there is something that I want to do. What is it that you're afraid would happen if you moved too quickly now? Not what you want to happen. I'm not asking you about what it is you're looking for, but what are you protecting yourself against? Because for many people, what they are protecting themselves against is not losing their credibility, not wanting to destabilize your finances. You've got bills to pay, there is real life. It might be that you don't want to disappoint people, or not even the disappointing people, but that fear of being judged, that told you that wasn't going to work, you know, and that feeling of having to pick up the pieces later, whether or not you've got somebody to help you pick the pieces up, or just yourself feeling that, you know what, I'm going to regret this if I do this. What if it doesn't work? And it's not wrong, it's not bad to have those feelings of fear, but what it does is it gives you data and it gives you data and it gives you information that you can work from. So now we know that motivation isn't the thing that moves you past the goal point a lot of the times. And actually, motivation works when the stakes are low. It works if it's for the short term. You know, if you are if there isn't much to lose, then yeah, motivation is going to work. But in the long term, when the stakes are high, you need five other things to be in place. And this is something that I looked at when managing teams, that in order to have teams move through and be and embrace change, to take it as their own, to own parts of the process, there are five things that need to be in place. And those things work for teams and it works for us as individuals because individuals make up the teams. So the first thing that needs to be in place is safety. And that does not mean just being comfortable, but this is safety and being in a space where you feel psychologically safe so that if things do go wrong, there isn't going to be backlash. And that backlash can be in terms of judgment, or it can be what happens, financially or reputationally. What is on the line? Psychological safety is important moving forward. And it also it can also take into account who you speak to about your change. Who can you trust? Who, not wanting to go through that experience. And if something doesn't work right, that fear of failure comes up and we don't want the humiliation of getting it wrong. And without psychological safety moving forward, if we don't feel psychologically safe, then usually we shut down or we don't move forward, and we interpret that as being stuck. So we need to have that safety where we don't have too much to lose, or we are very clear on, if there is a failure, this is what I stand to lose and this is how I come back from it. So internally we have to feel safe, but also on an external level, what does our environment say about us when it comes to psychological safety? If we went back to to the example of using, of changing diets, this is where it's low stake. You know, if you wanted to make changes in your diet, then it would mean making changes to your shopping. Who do you go out eating with? In the same way, when it comes to making bigger changes in your life, your environment says a lot about you. Because if you want to make changes that are going to be high stakes, that are big in terms of you making, changing jobs, relationships, making big career changes, it might even mean, transitioning out, then who is in your environment that can help keep you safe? So that safety is important. The second thing that has to be present when it comes to making changes in high stakes environment and making safe changes at that is having a structure or a plan. And like I said, motivation is not always motivation that we lack. It is our body responding to risk and our body trying to put in a risk management plan. So we do need a plan. And we need that plan in terms of our finances. We need that plan in terms of how we sequence what's happening. You don't want to do everything at once. There has to be an implementation phase with, okay, what do I do first? How do I control this? How do I move forward? Oops, I can see my apologies. My laptop is deciding that it wants to die. How do I move forward? But also looking at, you know, how can I control my resources so that I'm allowed to test it, so that I can track my progress, so that I can review how I go forward. The third thing that you want in high stakes environment that will help you make change in a safe way is the right language. And that is being very clear about who you speak to, or actually not even just the who you speak to, but the who, where, what, when, why of what is happening. And language comes in there because if you've ever tried to implement change in your team, if you don't have the why, if you don't have it clear as to, why are we showing up, why does this change matter, why are we doing this, then you're not going to be able to get people to come along. And it's the same thing with us. If we are not clear on the who, what, where, when, why of what is happening and why we want this change, we won't even sound credible to ourselves. So, the correct words, the correct understanding of why we're moving forward will help reduce or escalate stress. And so, for ourselves, our language has to be clear, we have to be credible, and that helps with our psychological safety. It also helps that if when somebody comes up and says, "Why on earth are you doing this? You want to do what? You want to change your job? You want to move into what?" When you are clear on your why, then their why shrinks because then you're able to make it make sense. The fourth thing that's needed to make change in high stakes environment is having a strong leader. Teams do not get through change without having a strong leader. And this is not about being a dictator, but it means leaders who are committed, trustworthy, resilient, can also show their vulnerability, who can admit to their own mistakes. And that points back to our own identity. Who are we? If you are thinking about, change that is high stakes, that's about big movements in your life, then do you still think like somebody who needs instructions? Are you a follower? Or are you open to criticism and feedback? Are you flexible to change? Are you resilient? Are you open to learn from mistakes? Because in order to lead others, we first have to be able to lead ourselves. So it's really important that strong leaderships that we are strong leaders in our own rights if we want to be able to move forward in change. We couldn't do that. We couldn't move teams properly through change if we weren't a strong leader. So in order for us to make lasting change that we want in our lives, we too have to learn how to be strong leaders and lead ourselves. The fifth thing that works and is needed when it comes to change in high stakes environment is who our stakeholders are, stakeholder involvement. Like I said, this is going back to my experience of what works for teams. And when you really link the two, it's what works for us as individuals. Stakeholder involvement is important because anyone who is connected or involved in what you're doing is going to have a say or is going to influence a decision in one way or another. The important thing as well is that when you think about stakeholders, they are usually interested in the success of the venture, because if it doesn't work, then it also reflects on them as well. So, usually, a stakeholder is somebody who wants it to work. So, think about who's around you right now. Who is in a supportive role, or who's in a sabotaging role when it comes to you changing? Some of those stakeholders you can't move out of the way, they're going to be there. But you have to look at how much involvement they have with you. How much how much sway do they have in the decision making process? So think clearly about who's in that position with you. And when you think back to, making a decision, making changes in teams and as a leader, a team needs somebody obviously to look up to. You want your team to share the vision with you. You want them to be part of the plan. And it works better. Change is a lot easier to implement and move through when you have people who are also owning their part in the plan and in the vision. And it's the same thing for you. Who are the people that are around you? Who are your stakeholders, your family, your friends? Those that you might be responsible for, your partner, your spouse, your children. What part do they play in that vision? Do they know about what you want to do career wise, the moves that you want to make business wise? What say do they have? Because, like I said, regardless of how active they are, or the part that they play, or maybe, they might not be a partner in the business or whatever it is that you want to move forward, you are going to make decisions based on who's around you and be influenced by them. So be mindful of the part that they actually play. And that's where you need a balance when it comes to those stakeholders. Who's in your life? Who's around your business? Family and friends are great, but you also need, oh, excuse me, you also need coaches and mentors for support. And that helps you to minimize the resistance that might be around you. It helps to support you in building resilience. And it also allows you to expand your vision, because now you're going to be talking to people who aren't directly in it with you, but also share the same mindset when it comes to growth. Those are people that can help you analyze the risks and help you to get support. So it's really important to think about who is around you when it comes to your stakeholders. So those are the five things that's really needed to help you move forward. And if you think about it, like I said, those are the things that are needed when it comes to moving teams forward. But it also helps if you take that information and use it for yourself. Do you have those five things in place? Though that's the difference between being in a situation where you think, you know what, I'm really motivated, but I can't just move forward. What you need to do is slow down and think about, what am I protecting? What conversations am I having that are feeling risky right now? Where exactly is that pressure coming from? And when you're able to sit back and think of, those five things: safety, your language, your stakeholders, strong leadership, where is the pressure coming from? When you're able to shift it, then that's when you get relief from that pressure, because you understand that change is actually possible. And you're not just thinking that you're going to push through the problem, you're actually identifying what the issue is, what the risks are that are attached to it. And that helps you build a better foundation when it comes to change and moving forward. So, think about, when you take some time, hopefully during this period at the end of the year. A lot of people look at, might not be your New Year resolutions, it might be your intentions, your to-dos, whatever you want to call it. But you're looking at 2026 as, what does this year mean for me? Take some time to think about how you can reduce any risk that's around you that might be unnecessary. Think about how you can stabilize certain parts of your life that need stabilizing before, and that's stopping you from making a decision to move forward. And think about what conditions you might need to create internally and externally to make movement and change safer for you. because yes, motivation's great, but also risk management is very important, because without that you won't be able to have any type of sustainable change. So if that's where you are and you are holding on to a decision, or there's a situation that feels like it's high stakes and you're tired of pushing yourself, and you're realizing that pushing yourself is not is not working, because we know, when if something's stuck and you push it, what usually happens is it breaks. It doesn't usually yield and get into place, it breaks. So it's about taking off that pressure and looking at, what do I need to do next? And if that's you and you feel that you need a conversation and that might help, feel free to book in to my diary. I've got options call where I'm not telling you what to do, but you can have that space to get some clarity and look at what might be the next clear or safe move for you. In the new year as well, I'm going to be bringing back the power hour calls. And so if you want to sit down for an hour because you know that you're ready and you're ready to move forward and put a plan in place, and that might be the thing for you. But whichever it is, take some time to think about, what risks do I need to mitigate? What needs stabilizing? What conditions do I need to create to make forward movement safer for me? So thanks for coming on to today's live. Still trying to figure out this video. I don't know what's going on, but anyway, we move. It's really blurry, but hopefully by the new year I'll sort out what I need to tweak so that it's a bit clearer. But anyway, thank you very much for coming on today. And however you celebrate the holidays, I hope you have a lovely one and have a restful one, as I, note to self as well. But take care. And if I don't see you before this year is out, I will see you in 2026. So enjoy, take care till the next video.